point, the car is all ready to go, so I took its first trip to our closest town, about 20 miles away, or closest city, I should say. Here's a before picture at 3:52 p.m. The car warmed up, ready to go. Nice dash shot there, everything's shiny, chrome looking great. Car all ready to go. So here's at a stoplight in town. The whole time it was charging. Temperature wasn't going up at all. Mind you, this time it's running off of a 5-gallon boat tank in the trunk, so the gas setup was still sketchy, but good enough for me to drive it where I needed to take it at the time. But yeah, the first trip there, it was doing fine. At a stoplight, the battery wouldn't be charging though. This would continue to be a problem we would fight along the way, but enough. It's for a different time. Here it is at work, parked out front there, next to one of the coworker Suburbans. So you can see it's a pretty big car, but you know, not too big of a car. But yeah, it made it in one piece. Didn't blow up, didn't overheat, didn't act funny. It did great the whole time. And then the next morning, went up to start the car, and she ran like a champ. There it is out front of my friend's house there with the little Volkswagen Beetle. Again, it looks pretty average sized. People think they're bigger than they are, but they're not too big of cars. There it is again in town. Nice dash shot here. The miles have been up by at least 200 or so since we did the first oil change. Another random person's who saw us at the gas station and took a picture of the car while we were filling up. Kind of funny. It's been on the internet, social media now once, so that was kind of exciting to see it get some recognition. There it is the next night, again parked up front there. A bit of an exhaust clip there at work. People like it. It does sound good. Before the exhaust manifold was broken off, so the exhaust was leaking in the car. We got some flex pipe and routed it outside of the car so it wouldn't be killing us whenever we drove it. You can kind of see the pipe there sticking out a little bit. But yeah, everyone liked it. I was letting it warm up there to do another oil change. I didn't really need to do one at that point, but I figured, you know what, I'm here, might as well do it. So our next oil change is about 51,976 miles, and it's at 52,000 since that, so it's gone up since that picture there. Been fine again. The next thing to fight was the choke. The choke kept giving me problems. I wasn't really sure how this choke, it's kind of a they call it like a choke stove. A pipe runs from the intake manifold and gets hot, lets hot air up into this little winding coil, and when it heats up, it loosens and opens up the choke. Picture an electric choke, but instead of using a wire, it uses a actual piece of hot pipe. So that thing kept giving me troubles, but finally I dialed it in. We're using these little marks here for the winter weather because it wasn't really starting well in the colder climate here in Kansas. But she was tuned up, set up there. You can see how tight the bowl is there when it's choked a bit there. Kind of a precursor to the automatic choke this car had. I might do an electric choke one day, but for now this is pretty much okay for what I'm doing. There was stumbling again. After my second time to town, it broke down in the middle of town, which is really embarrassing. There's no hazards or anything like that. We got it off the road though into a parking lot. The tank had become disconnected. Then I flooded the crap out of it, and then it wouldn't start or do anything. So we ended up warrantying out the plugs, putting new plugs in it, and the battery was at this time very, very dead, being 6-volt. So we ended up jumping it with the Suburban, and finally it ran. But on the way home, it was just spitting and sputtering and misfiring a whole bunch. What happened was, for starters, a mouse had chewed, or a pack rat had chewed up the cylinder 7 spark plug wire, so it was toast. I'm just grounding out. But even then, it should still run decent on 7 cylinders, but it wasn't. The issue there, the battery had stopped charging again, so there was no essentially voltage to supply the ignition system enough to get the car to ignite the spark hot enough for the combustion process. So ever since then, what day was this? November 23rd, we've been fighting major charging issues. So This picture here, I got the lenses back in the front of the car. It looks good there, headlights on and everything. Most importantly, though, the hood ornament finally was working again after I got a new old stock bulb plug for that, and it definitely looks cool. That is that's the selling point of the car right there, is the little hood ornament lighting up there, and it looks beautiful at night. You can see it lit up there with the headlights. Looks very nice. Definitely one of my favorite features of any 50s car, I think, is the Pontiac hood ornaments. I know Packard and a couple other brands did it too, but nobody like Pontiac did. There it is. The couple days later there, I took it to a Friendsgiving event there, a couple miles up the road, so I was able to drive there, and the battery was charging that night. Nice shot there, the dash and the road there, open road. There it is at the place running there, the hood ornament lit up there, looking decent. The next morning is probably 30-something degrees, started right up though. So no complaints with that time. And I drove it home, and it charged the entire time I drove it home. The whole trip home, it was charging. And since that day, it didn't charge since. It refused to charge ever since that November 25th. Figured probably maybe a voltage regulator. Did a bunch of diagnosing. I couldn't figure it out. I turned some screws on this voltage regulator, and it was charging really well. So I was going to drive it to work this day when it was snowy out a bit here, you can see. It's a bit dirty from driving around. And then it broke down again. Broke down again a couple miles down the road. Luckily, it wasn't on the highway or anything. So we got it trailered back home ever since then. This was on November 29th. And so a couple weeks later, we brought it to my school so I could try to figure out the charging issue and to run some tests on it for some of the projects we had to do for the class, like combustion, timing, engine temps, oil pressures, any engine related thing, engine repair class we did on my car here, and it came back with flying colors. So great compression, oil pressure, engine temperature, so on and so forth, things like that, which is great to hear. This picture here is of the hood being polished up. I'd never used a polishing wheel before, but I figured, you know what car to do it on, better do it on than this one. So we tried it out, and you can see it's kind of a sheen there, and I ended up doing the whole car with just a buffing compound, and it turned out great. The polishing compound is going to be next, but we'll get there when we get there. But for now, it looks really good. So I figured the next step here would be to rebuild the generator, because it's old, it's dirty, it's probably no good. So we took it apart. Here it is in the in a table vise clamp there. We took it apart there. You see the bearings there, different parts and pieces. We ended up testing the armature with a very, very, very old snap-on armature tester, or they call it a growler. My teacher pulled it out of the the museum there, the old testing equipment museum we have at the school, full of old things that don't get used anymore, haven't been used for decades now. So how this little thing works is you lay your armature on top of it, it's like a magnetic thing, and you turn it on, and you get a thin metal strip, and you lay it across the top of the armature layers there, and if it sits and buzzes as you rotate the armature, if it sits and buzzes or growls, as it's called, then it's bad. And every part on this entire thing growled or buzzed besides two strips. So this armature was shot. So ended up ordering a new old stock one on eBay, which would be a couple weeks later before that even got there. But in the meantime, I cleaned up the old generator body and painted it up so it looks like a new one. Here the car is after it was polished up before Christmas break. Looks pretty good, not bad at all. There it is in the parking lot. Again, the color turned out really good. There's the old and new armature there. You can see just one looks way better than the other. Reassemble the generator. Here's a clear coat of the license plate. I decided to clear coat it so it wouldn't rust anymore. It is an original Pot County, Kansas 51 plate. When you go to register these cars, they register them as special antiques, and as long as the plate year matches the car, you can pick any plate out anywhere. The county doesn't matter, the state doesn't matter. It could be wherever, as long as the number of the year matches. And that's only like an extra $30 to do that, so it's definitely worth it, I would say. Here it is a couple days before Christmas. I'm abandoned at my friend's house because it was not charging anymore, so it was just hanging out there. I went to diagnose the charger because we put the new generator on, and the night we did that, it wasn't working at all. But this day, when I put the generator on the car, it was charging perfectly fine. And it continued to do so for about a week and a half. So there I am driving home on that Saturday. Saturday hits different. If you look in the bottom left corner, you can see the charging gauge on charge. So it is charging like a champ that whole time. Here's a picture from Christmas morning, covered in snow. We drove to my grandma's house up the road because we want to show the family the car. And it charged the whole time there. Perfectly fine, no issues again. Drove it back home. There it is when the snow melted, looking really great with the polished paint. Really good looking car there. Next day we got the fuel tank in. That's a whole other story for another time. Got the right fuel tank in, so we had everything working properly again. It was a wholly self-sustaining car at this point. Charges on its own, fuels up on its own, mechanical pump works fine, everything is perfectly working car. Took it to Sonic, 52,155 miles there, so quite a bit of miles since we did the oil change, about 300 or so. Not a lot, but enough miles. And then I drove it to work on New Year's Eve, and then it stopped charging. And I need to go back up there to diagnose it, which will be the next video on the channel, I believe. And here it is where it's been sitting in my friend's front yard, in their street, looking really nice. Broken down again. And this picture here, kind of a little 1 year in memory of the first photo I took with the car. If you compare the two here on the screen, which I will, it's come a long way. I've learned a lot. The car is definitely a different car than it was. Broken down there. But if I had to go out on anything with this little up-to-speed montage here, photo montage of the journey of the Chieftain, it's that, in life, you can give things another chance, even if it seems like they definitely probably aren't worth it. And, just from looks and, it might not even be worth your time at all. But with a little bit of effort and love and time, you can make something new and cared for again. And the Chieftain really did teach me that. I mean, you saw the pictures of how it was. Went into this relationship not knowing that anything would work out. Ended up being one of the best experiences of my life, and I wouldn't ask for anything otherwise, and I wouldn't do anything differently, I think. But yeah, sometimes you got to give things second chances, and that's the whole point of the channel, is to give these cars second chances and spread some joy and love and knowledge along the way as best as we can with these cars. Bring some smiles in some people's faces, and maybe some kids watching like me thinking, maybe, you know what, maybe I can do that one day too. And you know what, I thought that same thing, and here I am doing it. So yeah, that's gonna close out this video today. Hope you guys enjoyed, and hopefully this inspired something in some of you guys. But otherwise, the heavier, more proactive content will arrive when we get some weather clears up here and we have some more things to do. But in the meantime, we'll see you guys next time, and thank you for watching.